talk about it. Like, what do you want to talk
I don't know. It's how cool it is, and how
about?
and why the fuck we're not doing it.
It is interesting, and so I started recording, by the way. So yeah, so welcome
Oh,
everybody to the Pageless Library. I'm Bo Knight. With me, as always, is Ryan Knight. How are you doing, Ryan?
uh, good, and you?
Oh, not so bad. And yeah, so me and Ryan are just going to talk about whatever we want today. There's no book, there's no nothing. This is one of our round tables. And I started recording like in the middle of a sentence because I could tell Ryan was getting riled up. Now, what did you want to talk about, Ryan?
Yeah. So I watched a deal. Well, actually, I listened to a podcast, and they were talking about using alcohol as fuel, and
In your
like
car,
why,
right?
yeah, like for in your car, and well, in any engine, basically, in any internal combustion engine. And this dude, I think his name was like David Bloom. If anybody wants to look this stuff up, he basically he says that like when the internal combustion engine was invented, it didn't run on gasoline. Like you can use the same concept with steam. And then he said they went to alcohol, and then it transitioned into um, gasoline after Rockefeller basically found out he made gasoline like by accident, I guess, because he was dumping all his freaking sludge and waste in the river, and the river caught on fire. So he made gasoline, and then he was like, "Oh, if this burns like alcohol, I can sell it." And then he started slandering alcohol because what he saw as the problem was the alcohol was made from like fruits and vegetables, obviously, and he was like the only one making oil at the time. So fruits and vegetables, any farmer can make those, but oil was all him. So he started slandering alcohol, and that's actually kind of how like uh, some like prohibition type stuff and all that came about, supposedly.
So I just because I've never really looked into this. Just like a quick like Google search of why we don't. And like, I think one of the things that's kind of makes a lot of sense is like that it's if you have like an ethanol engine, it's really hard to start in the winter months. That's what it says.
So that could be possible, but I mean, so is a diesel engine.
Right.
So you know what I mean? A diesel engine is very hard to start because the, from what I do know, from the little bit of research I've done, is the alcohol basically has a higher octane level than even like the highest octane gasoline.
Yeah, it
So it
does.
burns. So it burns slower, I believe. I could have that backwards,
I,
but
sure.
I think if the alcohol is vaporized, it'll still burn like off of a spark plug, like a gasoline engine. Um, but this guy was saying that it could be either or because it is also slow burning. It could also burn more like diesel off of compression alone.
Right.
So it also sounds like it's more versatile than other forms of fuel we're using right now. The biggest difference is that it's clean. It's like almost it leaves almost no footprint because there's no carbon, there's no nothing. There's almost nothing in the exhaust when alcohol burns. So
Sorry, I was just reading. I mean, most
yeah,
of
no, it's a
the people who oppose it, and I think they are right. It's just it costs so much to produce alcohol is the thing. I guess it's
so
popular in Brazil.
my question then though would be, is that true? Like you would
Well,
know,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
a lot
it
about
is. It is.
stuff.
It like we're the land is already so competitive, like competing for like cattle feed as it is. Like you're not really gonna be able to like have a bunch of land to like grow a bunch of corn or soybeans or whatever you want to turn into ethanol. Like it's not. I don't know if you really make your money back. Is what the sound of it. I know like the biofuel. Like I know like at least when I was in school, it might have changed now. But like the cost of it, like if you were turning corn into it, it took like a gallon and a half of of petroleum to make like 1 gallon of alcohol worth of ethanol.
So that I guess that would be my question. Okay, so if the tractor was an alcohol tractor,
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't change like the fertilization and stuff like that. Like that's really where a lot of those like that you're using so much like petroleum comes from is like a lot of the fertilizers and stuff that they use. And
Mm,
but I mean, I I don't know. Like I don't know. I think it's more of like a like if we had infinite land, then it would probably make more sense to do that to have like alcohol stuff, but we don't. And I don't even think
I
it's a
don't.
matter of like not having enough food. I just think it's a matter of just like not having enough land for it all.
I don't know. I'd be curious if that was kind of the case because he makes it sound like like per acre you can produce if you grow the right crops. He said that's the important part. You can't grow like he said corn is actually one of the worst that we could grow in terms of producing alcohol. So if you look at corn solely, he said that's actually like the worst crop to do it. He said a better choice would be something like wheat or sugar beets or something to that effect. Potatoes even are better because the way he made it sound is like corn, corn produces it takes a lot more nutrients to grow a stalk of corn with ears of corn on it because it has to grow a full plant plus all that other stuff. Whereas like uh, whatever a sugar beet is the whole beet is usable as like you just throw it in whatever, throw it in your mash, and it is you use all of that. Whereas the corn you have to separate it out and separate all the stalk and stuff out like that. So and correct me if I'm wrong, but corn removes a lot of nutrients from the ground because it takes a lot of nutrients to grow all of that. Uh,
Yeah, it doesn't it's not as bad as I think sugar beets is actually worse.
for the ground.
Yeah,
So why? So how is that?
because it just draws a lot of nutrients out of the ground because it's a lot more of like a dense plant. Like the only thing that corn really does is like depletes nitrogen, which is what all plants do.
Right.
Corn is just it's pretty easy to grow. I think like you really don't have to do a lot of babysitting for it. And sugar beets, I know they need like a special climate, not like a special climate, but they don't do very well in a lot of climates.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's probably more good that goes into it, like as to why we don't. 'Cause somebody's probably thought about it. And I just started thinking about like because you have to distill it down. I don't know the percentage you need to like your car to run on, but like to distill it down to like 95% that takes a long time and it's really expensive to do that. Like I don't know how that is compared to like how refining of gasoline goes. Like I have no idea how that works, and I have no idea like how even to really they go about that. Like how many because they get so many different things from it, don't they?
Yeah, from crude oil, you get, yeah, if you've ever seen like an oil factory, it'll have like this one big, huge, tall tower with all these pipes coming off at different levels. Because as they heat it, you get different things at each level that you need for specific products, plastic, rubber, whatever. And according to this guy, gasoline is actually like one of the very last things produced from it. So
And
it's
I
basically
think
like
that's true. It's like the
it's
most
almost
refined
like
part of it.
well, it's almost like the trash though. It's like what's left, basically.
Well, I mean, the trash is determined by who wants it. So what was the
So
guy's name?
David Bloom, Blume, and he talks about though a lot of the rumors because there's a lot of things like that, like oh it would be too much of this or it ruins your car or does this. He says actually a lot of that stuff was started by oil companies to make sure that people didn't switch to using alcohol. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know either. I really don't. I don't know enough to say. I just want to see. He's an entrepreneur.
I mean, because I'd be curious, like you're saying, like there's not enough land to do it. But if you told a farmer, hey man, you can basically start your own gas station right here. If you already have 260 acres and
Yeah, but that's
you
not
could
very
start
much.
your own gas station.
260 acres is not very much. Like compared to like what people really own and like how much some of these land these people have, like I think that would be in like the bottom 1%. I think that would be considered a hobby farm.
Okay, but if he can make a living then off the gas station that he plops up in the corner or the alcohol station, then he's not losing anything. He's actually winning.
No,
And then
right, but I
this
mean,
was
like you're being really reductive, like because he'd have to like process all that stuff somewhere too, and like there's a lot of things that would go into it. It's not like he could just,
right.
just like throw it in the corn into a barrel and then or whatever, the sugar beets even, like he couldn't just turn it straight into fuel.
But why not? Because I mean, all you're producing 100% alcohol is what we're looking to burn. So, like, that's my question then is like, why not? Why couldn't he just? He's already got all the stuff to harvest it. Now he needs a still to distill it down to alcohol. That's pretty much
I'm,
it.
and I think the why not is that it's just not profitable enough, or there's not like these systems in place for him to want to do that if you wanted to, like that's not even an avenue you can take really, I think. I mean, maybe you could
Well,
if
it's
you're like
not.
a specific ethanol farmer.
No, and you're absolutely right though. It's not right now. But say there was some say like I made a car that runs solely on alcohol, and then the farmer across the street was like, "Whoa, hey man, I'll make you an alcohol fill station," and then everybody who buys my car now goes to him to get their alcohol to fill their car. Well, then the oil company's like, "Hey, wait a minute. What do you mean those cars aren't coming to our gas stations?" That that's kind of what I'm saying that this dude kind of points out, and I'm obviously paraphrasing a lot of it, but he points out that there's way more farmers than oil barons. So, of
Right.
course, the oil barons don't all of a sudden want it to be a ratio of 100 alcohol producing farmers to every one oil baron or whatever the numbers would be, because then they would be very quickly outnumbered and probably be very quickly put out of business. Should there
Well,
be it would take a huge shift of consciousness, obviously, for that to happen, and it probably never will. But
and yeah, but I mean, like I think there are a lot of like things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, like that are constantly pushing oil on like the whole world.
well, yeah, I mean, yes, that's just because though we've pretty much become dependent on it. I mean,
Right, but I feel
I
like
mean,
that's almost by design on purpose. Like it's we're supposed to be that way.
well,
Like
absolutely.
that's how they wanted it.
That's yes, that's exactly it. But so that's kind of my question. So if the shift had never been made to oil, and if because this guy's saying like back in World War One or two, Germany was using like alcohol vehicles, alcohol locomotives, alcohol planes, alcohol tanks. So like if the shift had never been made to run solely on gasoline, diesel, oil products, what would the world look like instead? You know what I mean?
I, I don't know. I I always wonder that, like if oil suddenly became useless, like what would we do with all the stuff that we had just stored up? I don't even
Well,
like.
it's kind of like Dies the Fire, man.
Yeah, that is kind of what I was thinking of too.
Which is a great book, by the way, if anybody wants to go listen to that. What a good story.
Yeah, I haven't. There's a bunch of them. I haven't listened to that in a long time.
I just like the first three. Those are my favorite.
I don't even. I think I've made it through the first one. I don't think I've
I
listened
think,
to the whole.
well, I've made it through the first like two and a half, but either way, yeah, definitely good story. And that's kind of what it's about is like that electricity stops, gasoline stops working, gunpowder stops working, all these things that we are very much so reliant on just go away,
Well,
basically.
the way I thought about it is like all these reactions that are like quick, like a quick source of energy just stopped working. Like gunpowder, yeah, like nothing is fast anymore. Like
Yeah,
nothing
because
works instantly.
yeah, they say that too. They'll like every year they put a little bit of gunpowder in a tray and they burn
Yeah,
it because now it all of a sudden burns really slow. But they
yeah,
try it every year just in case it starts working again.
yeah. Like that's yeah, that's a crazy. That's a weird dystopian one. It's like, yeah, just but like the funny thing is like even if it was just like gasoline stopped working, like the whole world would fall apart.
Oh yeah, we would come to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't even think about it that way, but
um, that's actually a good segue for something else I wanted to talk to you about. Is I listened to that. We started talking about this a little bit yesterday. Uh, but that Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson, that latest one that they did, or that I listened to, not the latest one they
I was
did.
gonna say I don't think it's latest, but yeah.
Um, anyways, I had this idea. So the concept that Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock have kind of come up with is that some sort of cataclysm happened in our past, and
Well,
basically
not necessarily just one.
no.
Like
Yeah,
it's probably who knows how many times.
right, and they're the one they're talking about is like just the most recent one that they
Right.
think happened. And it basically brought like the whole world essentially to its knees, especially humanity. Um, and they think that these are where the stories of like Atlantis might come from. Is that like Atlantis could have potentially been like an advanced society similar to ours, and basically this cataclysm happened and it wiped out this society of Atlantis, this whole civilization, because whatever this cataclysm was, they couldn't handle it. They couldn't survive through it. And I started thinking about that. And because Graham Hancock was like, who's going to survive a cataclysm? And it would basically be people who are already like hunter gatherers, probably in the jungle that we don't even know about. And he said, then, like if a cataclysm happened today, those people would be the ones telling stories in 10,000 years about us being gone, you know? And, but I thought about it and I was like, what's funny is if a cataclysm happened, think about all those movies and stuff that Hollywood makes, all the post apocalyptic stuff you see, who's usually like right after the shit goes down, who immediately takes over? It's all the shitheads and the douchebags and the scum because as soon as there's no rules, they just go nuts.
Right.
And I was like, and I think, that really is kind of what happens because they talked about, like in New Orleans when it started flooding, they said there was two kinds of people running around. There was people trying to save other people, and there was people looting stores immediately. And I was like, if a cataclysm did happen, that's probably what would happen. And those people essentially would be running the show for quite a while until all the other, level-headed people organized and built back up and recreated kind of society. So
Yeah.
I'm just I'll finish this and then I'll let you respond. Um, I just thought that would make a lot of sense, like for even like the Atlantis myth, because you'd have all these d-bags running your society until your organized people got all back together, put those other people back down, and started a new society. And I thought, well, that's also a good way that we would lose a lot of our, you know, technologies and stuff. Because those people, like if the prisons all broke free and they all started to riot and whatever, most likely not going to be the people who rise back up and invent the iPhone. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
because Graham Hancock says that we're like a society with amnesia. I was like, well, that would explain the amnesia because those kind of people are most likely not going to pass on very useful information. So,
Right. I don't even know there's so many different things to talk about. Yeah, like I've always wondered what I would really like to watch like the whole arc of human civilization from like finish to
oh
end.
man,
Just like really see all the iterations and stuff like that because like I feel like there's probably so much that we're never going to know. And I mean like it used to bother me when I was a kid like man, like especially Egypt. It's like what? Like how do they not know how they put those pyramids together? Like what do you mean they don't know?
right.
And we still don't know. They come up with a new theory every year. It's like no, it wasn't slaves, it was artisans. No. Now it was magic. And like I don't know. Like it would just be really interesting to see like especially like I would like to see like how like really advanced societies handled like their hierarchy and stuff like that. And like, I don't know. Maybe somebody at some point in history had it completely right, and then a fucking meteor just smashed into them all or something, or the water just fucking
Yes.
kept rising, and then oh shit, like, like I don't know.
Well, that's what I find very interesting. And there's obviously a lot of people who disagree with like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson and stuff. Um, so and I mean I understand that point of view too, is that their theories are one in thousands of theories, right? Technically, I just came up with a different theory, a branch off theory, type of thing. It's it's easy to speculate, and I get that. But these guys are like showing evidence that all happens to line up that makes a lot of sense. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I just think the thing I have the hardest time accepting, the more things I see, like the more research I look at on Egypt or like any of these other megalithic sites, the thing that I have the hardest time accepting is when people think we are the best we've ever been, we're the most advanced we've ever been, and we are just the cream of the crop. We're the best that there's ever been. And John Anthony West kind of says that best. He's like, people just assume that like the the line that we're on always goes up. That you start at the bottom and you have this nice, slow, gradual increase in technologies and society and stuff, and it just goes on and on and up and up and up forever. He's like, but there's nothing says that's true. How is that? Why do we think that? There's nothing that says that model is true.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I feel like that's a lot of that is just our freaking arrogance as the human race. That's like, of course, right now is the best time ever.
Right. And you
Why
know
would?
what? Right. And right now might be the best time ever. It might, but we don't know that. And to assume that, though, the word arrogance is exactly right. And the scary thing is like in, I guess, in Plato's writings, because Plato wrote about Atlantis, and he basically said almost those exact words, that they assumed they were the best, their arrogance got the best of them, and the universe smacked them back down to reality and said, "You are nothing." And I was like, "Oh, damn." Like, what if that happens to us? Because we think we're the best, but we really are nothing.
Well, and but like I feel like that really like you can draw back to so many different empires, and like you look at their hubris. Like Rome is a perfect example.
Yeah,
Like they were like a super advanced society, but then they kind of like went through like a run of really bad leaders, and it kind of like crippled them as a society. And then like this band of they have a name. Oh my god, I can't remember what it is. But they're like a band of barbarians able to overthrow the city.
right. Of one of the largest civilizations
Right.
on the planet, they controlled like the most land on the planet at any
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
and then one day the farmer's like, "Man, that aqueduct's not bringing me any water. What the fuck?" And he like goes to the office and all the guys are dead. It's like, "Oh
this is all on fire. Yeah,
shit." He's like, "Well, I'm gonna fucking make it so my shit'll work, and I'm just gonna fucking take the aqueduct apart."
right. That's what I mean. It's I think you're exactly right. Like it would be interesting to see like they think what modern humans have been around for what 200 million years or something, like not modern, just humans, quote
Yeah.
unquote, 200 million years.
Yeah,
Um,
but that's like
it,
not very long
it
when you really
no,
think about
it can't be 200 million. It can't. I'm getting my numbers mixed up.
it.
Is it 200,000? Maybe it's 200,000. That sounds more correct because the dinosaurs were 65 million years ago.
About
And
200,000 years.
okay, there you go, 200,000. Because they're pretty sure that modern, not I keep saying modern humans, whether it was Neanderthal, whatever, they're pretty sure we were not around when the dinosaurs were around.
Right. Right, dude, and that leads me to like another thing that like this is kind of like off topic, but like talking about like ancient Americas, because I saw something recently that I thought was interesting, and it was like a map of like the languages, and then they like showed the timeline between like when they think the land bridge was supposed to be up from like Asia to where Alaska is now. And they're like, there's no way that like this timeline makes sense with how many languages there are. Like,
Right.
there's just no way. It just doesn't make any sense. And
Yeah.
that one blows my mind. Like, what the language is crazy. Like, where did it even come from? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that one, if I think about it too hard, it just starts to hurt my head.
I was gonna say, yeah, I already have like a smidge of a headache. So these are topics that I love, but unfortunately, I get so far down the rabbit hole. I'm like, oh, my brain, it's too weak to comprehend these things.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like, man, I just don't have the mental faculities for all this,
or the testicular fortitude.
Yeah, I don't have the testicular fortitude. That's for sure. It just stresses me out for no reason.
It is a topic though that I really like. I mean, I don't necessarily like the speculation portions of it, but I don't know. I like the speculation portions for the sole fact that when they completely contradict the mainstream things we're told, like the Egypt is 6,000 years old, period. Like I hate that idea that like, and I like that they talk about this too, that Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock kind of talk about this, that, they tell us that whatever, this building was built in 2000 BC and that's how it is because we told you so. And most people are just like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's like, but who's that guy to tell me that? He don't know. He wasn't there. Like,
I don't. But I think you kind of bring up an interesting point that I think is something wrong with our schooling system a little bit, is that they don't really teach you how to think for yourself. They kind of just teach you like what's right, what's wrong. Like this is correct, this is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like especially like growing up now and like because a lot of like, and this has nothing really to do with what I was talking about, but like the way that they kind of like force you to think one way is like they really want, like the schooling system really wants you to be a Democrat. Like that's the way that they want you to think in this country. It seems like that's what at least the schooling we went to. I don't know about every other part in the country. I'm sure like maybe a Catholic school is a little different, but like those kind of things were kind of like ramrodded down my throat, and like until I kind of went to college and like realized that there's these guys that are logging aren't evil monsters. Like they have to pay for stuff. Like they're like industrialists. Like they're really like doing something. They're not killing the trees because they are evil.
Right. They're killing the trees so we can have this building we're in. Like
yeah, exactly. Like stuff like that. And the guy chopping the trees down isn't thinking, man, I just fucking hate the environment. He's probably thinking like, how am I gonna feed my kids?
Right. I hate this tree. I'm so glad I'm killing it.
You remember Fern Gully? You remember that movie?
Yes, Caitlin and I watched that not that long ago because it's on Netflix.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
See, and like that, I feel like that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like they paint these loggers as like these horrible, evil people, but they're really not. They're just doing their job.
Right. Yeah, they're just out there to do a job. The evil part, I like that in that movie. The evil part is like
that goop,
the pollution. Yeah.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, he comes out of the exhaust, man, and he's made of like oil.
I haven't seen that I might have to watch that, dude. That's a good.
I like we've come full circle. We're back to talking about oil, man. It's just it's all the oil's fault.
Right. It's all about oil. Our one Saudi Arabia listeners like good. They're talking about oil again.
He's steepling his fingers.
Yeah, that's what I was doing, dude. That's exactly what I was doing. Oh God, that's hilarious.
So you bring up an interesting point though about schooling, because I agree that our schooling is I mean, we could have like multiple seasons of podcasts just talking about this. There is a podcast called School Sucks, and that's literally what he talks about.
Oh, really?
But so the interesting thing is though, is that like academics, this is why kind of like Graham Hancock says that we're not necessarily moving forward with any ideas. Like he calls himself a heretic, which I love because he goes against the mainstream thinking. But he said the reason a lot of like even his like heretical ideas are not more widely accepted is because how would it look if some college professor has been teaching the same shit for 20 years and then it is all of a sudden like, oh yeah, you know what? I was wrong for 20
Yeah,
years.
but that happens.
But most of them, I would probably guess 95% don't want to do that. Even
No.
if the evidence is so blaringly obvious, they don't want to be like, yeah, I was wrong the whole time.
Well, and I feel like you're kind of talking about another thing in academics that is kind of a little bit off topic, but the fact that like academics comes with this kind of ego that like, well, yeah, I knew I was right. Like it doesn't matter what this says. Like the things that I've done are right. Like that, like there's kind of like a dogma in like
Yes.
each sect, and it's not even like they're not necessarily like competing to like learn to like like get the truth. They're like competing to prove their theories. It's really what they're doing the whole time. Because like you'll get your funded cut if you're not doing like if you're not like getting the right results and stuff like that. And it's just like I don't
Yes.
know. I feel like science shouldn't be like a competitive thing, but it kind of is. Like the people who are like at the cutting edge of science they're competitive. Like obviously they are. They wouldn't be at the top if they weren't. But like I feel
Right.
like that kind of bleeds over into everything else. And it becomes more about winning than about discovering the truth.
Exact. Yes. Yeah. I couldn't have said that better myself because I completely agree. And I think that is part of what's kind of, as fast as we think we're moving forward, I feel like we do take one step forward, two steps back in so many places because of stuff like that.
Yeah. And yet they spend some
Especially
fucking time arguing.
right, and you hit the nail on the head too. That if, like, say you're a freaking geologist, and some guy's like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you $10,000 to go look at these rocks. I need you to find me this," and you go and you're like, "Hey, man, I'm not really finding what you were looking for, but I found some of this stuff. This is pretty interesting." He's like, "Give me the rest of my money back. How
Yeah,
dare you?
that's
How
not what I
dare you?"
wanted.
Yeah, that's not what I told you to go do. How dare you think you
Yeah.
could go look for something on your own?
Yeah. Yeah, and like I don't know enough about like how research gets funded because like there are like private studies obviously, and then there are like government funded studies and stuff like that. And I don't know how that works. Like if you're in a private study and I don't know, let's say you're like studying blueberries, and they're like, yeah, we want to see if blueberries make you live longer, and you're like, oh man, actually blueberries kill you 10 times faster. Like they're not gonna put that information out.
Right. Yeah, they're only going to put out stuff that's good, most likely, or it's only going to be the mainstream is only going to show the good findings. Yeah,
Right. Right.
that
Yeah.
that School Sucks podcast. He talks about how the schooling system that we currently use was adopted from like Prussia back in like the, I'm going to butcher this, but like in the 60s or 70s or something, and it literally is the schooling system that they were using to turn children into factory workers.
Yeah. It that makes so much sense though.
Yeah, because he said what it teaches doesn't really teach you anything, but the things it does teach you is it teaches you how to sit in one place, not ask any questions, do as you're told, and absorb the information you're given without asking too many, without much pushback for
And
8 hours a day.
don't be disruptive.
Exactly. Yep. For 8 hours a day, which is how long they wanted you to be able to work in a factory.
Right.
Once he said that, I was like, oh man, that's so true.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of sad.
It's really sad. It's sad that kids are not encouraged to ask more questions. Like, not to, don't be like a douche, but you should ask questions. Like, and your teacher shouldn't be like, nah, what did I tell you? I told you it's this. Therefore, your question is irrelevant. Like, well, why is it irrelevant? I told you to stop talking. Like,
Yeah. Why are you still here?
yeah, it's kind of pathetic. Like, I think we got lucky growing up in kind of a small school because we did have teachers that didn't necessarily encourage you to ask questions, but they weren't like rude about it if you did ask questions. Like you didn't get sent to detention for asking questions.
And I mean, shout out. I mean, I don't know if you ever had Mr. Hubbard, if he was after like after your time when he taught history.
Oh man,
He's literally
I
one of the
had
best teachers I've ever had.
yeah. No, I had Mr. Hubbard. I don't think he taught me history, but I did have Mr. Hubbard. Yeah.
He like one of him. Like there's a couple teachers from the school that are really good, but Mr. Hubbard, you ever hear this? I want you to know that you're one of the best teachers of all time. Come
Yeah, he
and send me
was.
an email and tell me how your teacher was better, and I'll prove you wrong.
Yes, please. Somebody email us kotpl.pod@gmail.com. Please.
Or at the Facebook at fucking Knights of the Pageless Library, or at Twitter at Pageless Library, or also you can check us out on Reddit at r/KOTPL.
Yeah, if you want to go, I post most of these on YouTube. I'm way behind, but you can
I
go
forgot
on
about the YouTube.
and leave me a comment over there. It's Knights of the Pageless Library over there too.
Yeah. Mr. What's that about? Yeah, it's like so Mr. Hubbard, he's like the reason I even like history. Like I didn't like history before I even knew him. And then like I couldn't get enough of it once he started teaching it to me. Like,
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that I don't know. I know we've talked about a little bit about 1984 on here too, but that line in that really scares me, and that's that he who controls the past controls the present, and
he who controls the present controls the future.
Oh, he who controls the past, or sorry, I'm gonna butcher it. He who controls the present controls the past. He who controls the past controls the future. Yeah.
Right.
But that's a scary thing because
it is
the way they talk about it, like they can just like change the books, and after 2 generations, nobody knows the difference. Nobody cares.
Well, the thing about because he works in like the editing department, and the thing that's crazy to me is like, oh, say you read this book and it's like the dog is red. Well, they changed it so the dog is blue. You think you're crazy because when you go back and read it, it says the dog is blue, but you could have sworn it said the dog is red, but there's no proof that it ever said that.
And because they destroy all the proof that it said that. That's kind of what the Mandela effect is right now. Well, quote unquote, because we don't know. But also too, that brings up the point of like the doublethink, because it could say the dog is red and there'd be a picture of a red dog, and then they could change it to say the dog is blue, but the dog in the picture is still red. The dog is red, but now they're telling you it's blue. Therefore, you have to believe that dog is blue.
Right, like the double think of like you knowing something is not true, but at the same time knowing it is true. Like that's so like scary. It's so scary.
It is scary, and it's kind of a reality at this point. It really is.
Yeah, and the scary thing is like especially about 1984 is like when he's explaining these things to you, it makes sense. Is the thing that I don't like about it is like, oh my god, like he has a point though. Like the things that he's telling, or O'Brien is telling him, you're like, oh my god, he's kind of right though.
Yeah.
But like in a scary way, like, oh my god, like, oh, I don't want to live in a world like that.
Right. Even though we kind of already do. Because I mean, dude,
kinda.
in reality, we are like you and I, we are the proles. That's what we are. We are the wheels of industry, being led around by the shepherds of the freaking inner circle. Like that's it.
And wasn't that kind of like the little bit of the triumphant book is like that lady that's like hanging up the clothes, and she's like singing, and he's like thinking about life, and he's like, she's as happy as can be, but she really didn't live a life of meaning. But she meant something to somebody else. Yeah.
Well, and that's also why he says that the only way, the future is in the proles, because they're the only ones who can get us out of this.
Right, and I find that interesting that they like let the proles. Okay, I guess this is a book review for 1984 now, but I find I find it like when he talks about the proles, and like the proles are allowed to do whatever they want. Like whatever they want.
because the thing is though, he says they literally, as long as they give them enough entertainment to not riot, that's all they have to do. And
Yeah,
that's literally all our society is. They
yeah. It's
provide
just
us
a
with
bunch.
enough things to keep us happy. That's it. That's all they have to do.
It's almost more like we're a kid, right? And we like hurt ourselves, and it's like the society's like distracting us from the hurt the whole time. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're
Right.
not hurt, you're fine. It's like, oh man, our country's on fire, but look at this new iPhone. Oh my god.
That's yes. Yeah. And I don't know how much of that I also started thinking about this, how scary it is that like, if we're the proles, the government officials that we see on TV, that's got to be the outer circle. And then there's the shadowy people who are truly running the show that we will
Yeah,
never see. You
yeah.
know?
The Patriots or the Illuminati or whatever.
Yeah, that has to be how it is, though, man. I mean, not even without even getting into a conspiracy. I think it's not even a conspiracy. That is what is happening.
Probably. I don't know. Or maybe nobody knows what they're doing and it's just we're just fucking all just bumbling morons.
Yeah, we're all just on a giant rock hurtling through space at 1,000 miles an hour,
Yeah, we're on a giant organic spaceship.
basically. Yeah, that's it too.
Was it you that I was talking about like that there's like coding in everyday objects? Was it you?
Yeah,
Were we
yeah.
talking about that?
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit and how ridiculous it is.
Right. Because we were talking about if we're in a simulation or not. That's right.
Yeah, because we started talking about virtual reality gaming and how
Right.
that's what's going to happen is we're all going to go into the virtual reality, but then we're going to be like, dang it, it's the matrix inside of the matrix, but then you go in the matrix to play on the matrix. Like,
Yeah, and that's but maybe that is already how it is. Like that's
that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe one day
but
I'll wake up and I'll be like, whoa, shit, and I'll take my goggles off and I'm an alien, and I'll be like, whoa, dude, that was crazy. I'll
yeah.
get hit by a bus and it'll freaking tick and it'll say I have 0 lives left. So then I'll take my headset off and I'll,
It'll just give you a score.
yeah. And I'll be like, whoa, dude, I made it to 31 years. How crazy is that? I'm going back in. I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah.
And I'll put another freaking huge giant quarter into this machine.
Oh, it's like you have to like roll it in.
Yeah. And I'll go back in and I'll start off as a baby again.
Yeah, I think it's you that's talked about like that like so it's a theory that's the one that I kind of like. It's like that this whole human existence is just like we're all aliens on like a drug trip, and this is just like
Yeah.
what it's like. It's just like you live a
Yeah.
whole life as a human.
Yeah. Yeah, and then at the end of it, like you're on your deathbed as a human and you close your eyes or whatever, and then you wake up as your alien self and there's a bunch of your friends standing around. They're like, dude, how was it? How was your trip?
Yeah,
You're like,
that's
dude, it was crazy. I had a family. There was more of you guys there, I bet. Like
do you so like I guess I'm being Joe Rogan for 5 seconds, but I read something that was like I've never done DMT. I'm sure you haven't either, but
uh
like
no.
supposedly you go to like this whole other realm, and there's so but they say they see a lot of cats when they're there, and there's like this cat in us in I think it's Africa that eats this plant that basically goes into a DMT trip, and they think that they're seeing those cats that are tripping like in the DMT realm.
What? Like their consciousnesses are like
Yeah,
converging in this
yeah.
other place? Oh man.
I've
That's
never done DMT, but supposedly it's like you basically like reality melts away and you're taken somewhere else.
well, that's kind of what Graham Hancock talks about because he talks about ayahuasca all the time.
Yeah, ayahuasca
It's like it's the same
is
thing, right?
DMT, but it's slow. Yeah, DMT is actually in like freaking it's in like lettuce and shit, but it just gets dissolved by your stomach.
Right. And it's also like we produce DMT. They
Mm-hmm.
think that might be what makes us
It's
dream,
what
right?
you make, what makes you dream. Yeah, but that's what they think because they haven't had like a
Right.
like a brain open on a table and they're like, okay, dream now and poking it.
Yeah. um, but that's Graham Hancock talks about ayahuasca, and he says like when you go in, he's like you literally because he always talks about like the goddess or whatever. He's like it's not like a Greek goddess. He says you just know that's the entity you are speaking to. And he said multiple people have reported very similar things,
Yeah.
and a lot of people have said they've spoken to an entity that says, "We're so glad you found this way of communicating with us."
Yeah.
Like, well, that's trippy. Like, how is it that multiple people are experiencing this same thing? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and see, I've talked to my friends about this, and like, so, like one of my friends, Joe, was talking about like that I can't remember what they were doing. They were doing some drug, but he said like there was like 5 of them, and they all had the same trip at the same time.
No way.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
like
That is
that's
crazy.
crazy to me. Because I mean, like even like compare it to something like alcohol. Like if me and you both had like the same amount of alcohol, like we're not experiencing the same thing.
Right.
Like it not even close. Like it just I don't
No.
that one like honestly hurts my head. And it's like I don't understand how that's even possible.
Yeah, that is nuts. And I find that very interesting the way that Graham kind of explains that how that's to him that's what it is. It's this goddess that you go and speak to essentially. And I was like, man, it's too bad I get P tested at work because I want to meet the goddess. Like,
I want to meet her too. I don't even like I'm trying to like I don't even know where you would get ayahuasca. I've never heard of anybody talking about doing it.
I guess you got to go down to whatever the rainforest in Brazil, right? That's where the shamans are.
Yeah, but
And
that just sounds sketchy, dude.
I know. Yeah, and then you're like, "Hey man, I want to go do some ayahuasca." Oh, you stabbed me!
Yeah,
Oh!
yeah, exactly. Or you're tripping and they're just robbing you blind.
Yeah, you wake up in
Eh,
a fucking bathtub with stitches in your back because
Yeah.
you missed a kidney. Yeah,
Oh god, that like honestly like that's gotta be nightmare situation, right? Like waking
I
up in a
think so.
bathtub like full of ice and somebody took your fucking kidney. Like, dude,
Um,
like that to me, like the only situation I could think of like worse would be like to wake up and like missing a hand.
yeah. Why my hand? Why? What are they
Well,
gonna
dude,
do with it?
like I freaking like Game of Thrones, like when Jamie loses his hand, like
Oh
that
yeah,
literally is like one of my nightmares. Is like not being able to use one of my arms. Like that
yeah.
is so scary to me.
The,
Oh
ugh.
god, in the book, and the guy kicks his stump. Oh my god, that fucking I can only imagine how bad that would fucking hurt.
Yeah, that's
Oh, oh, sorry. We went dark.
um. I was gonna say something too about like this whole well it kind of going on like the DMT ayahuasca thing. I like Graham Hancock's stance on all of this because he talks about how it's ridiculous that things like marijuana and DMT and any of these like naturally occurring things are illegal. He's like, it's how is it okay for the government to say that you, as a fully conscious, aware adult, are not allowed to choose how you change your subconscious? Like, if you are, as long as you're not like getting high and going and hurting people, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, what is the harm in that? If you're, as long as you're not harming other people, obviously, what is the harm in you wanting to change your state of consciousness, basically?
I I don't know. Maybe they don't want us to be too woke.
Well, that actually is, I think, like a conspiracy. Well, not I use the word conspiracy. That's the wrong term. That's like a theory that they are illegal and they're trying to keep them from us because they actually are. Uh, it does make people more aware of things. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
because
supposedly that's where we got
they
our
were like,
consciousness was mushrooms. supposedly.
Yeah, that's the Terrence McKenna's theory, right? The stoned ape theory thing.
Ape, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, I don't know, I've never done drugs because I've never been allowed to do drugs because I'd get fired. But I can only imagine though, they wouldn't want a bunch of people like, I don't know, smoking weed and being like, man, this job's fucking stupid. I'm not doing this anymore. This is dumb. Like, you know, if it wakes you up to the fact that what you're doing is really dumb,
Yeah.
they can't have that. They can't have a bunch of people all at one time realizing that most of the jobs that most of us do are stupid. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and they especially can't have people doing things like ayahuasca and realizing there's way, way more to life than getting on your new iPhone or whatever,
Right. And checking Facebook 15 times.
Yeah. For the 100th time and updating your freaking status, and nobody gives a shit what restaurant you're at. Like,
Yeah.
But that is the society we've built, man. We have literally dug our grave and we're laying in it, I feel like.
Yeah, and like I know people don't like to think that, but like human beings are eventually gonna end. Like
I think so. Yeah.
There's no way around it. One day the sun's gonna blow up. Like that's it's inevitable. Like freaking entropy, right? Like everything eventually just goes into chaos and scatters.
I don't know. I'm without getting too sappy and stuff. I'm very disappointed, like in where we're kind of at as a society right now. With like, we're just full consumerism. That's all we're about right now. Consumerism.
Right.
It's just not I don't think it's a good way. I mean, of course, it's a great way for some people because they make a ton of money off of it, but the money is just a consumerism type of thing. So they go hand in hand. One cannot exist without the other. So.
Right. Yeah. Man, we've talked about some heavy stuff.
I know. I think we did that last time too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just how it is. And I mean, like the funny thing is, like, this is just how we talk.
Yeah, it is kind of just how we talk to each other. Conversation goes, yeah.
And like, I don't know. I don't want to like freak anybody out, but also I gotta say, like, we're not experts. We're just two dudes, and and if you disagree with anything you say, just send us an email. Just shoot it over there. Or if you agree with us too, how about how the lizards are running the government? Just send us an email.
Yeah, just like we said before, keep the racism to a bare minimum, please.
None. The bare minimum is none.
Oh yeah, no. The only stipulation was unless it's really, really funny.
Yeah. Now I almost feel bad even saying that. I hear the PC babies crying.
Yeah, the PC babies are just bawling.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, yeah, no racism here. We don't encourage that stupid shit. That's also part of the one step forward, 500 steps back stuff. So,
dude, I wish we were talking about fucking To Kill a Mockingbird right now because it's so relevant. But okay, that's next time, everybody.
Yeah, don't talk about it right now.
No, I wasn't. I didn't.
Okay, but let's definitely, we're gonna do that for next episode because I really have been waiting to talk about it. So
yeah, me too. I actually, like, oof. Yeah, let's maybe wrap this one up. It's getting kind of late.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're almost about an hour.
I got to get up early tomorrow. That's good. That's probably a perfect length. I'm sure most people quit listening about the 3-minute mark as we've seen before. But if you stuck with us this long, thank you. Everybody.
See, I don't know how long people listen to the podcast. We only know about like the videos. So
that's true. Yeah. Which, if anybody, I'm sure people on YouTube are just like me and they have a very short attention span. So they click on something and they start listening while they're scrolling through other videos. And they're like, I want to watch this one instead. Like, I do that all the time.
Well, the funny thing to me too is like podcasts. Like I always skip the beginning because I don't want to hear your fucking ads, and then I don't listen to the end. And so it's like
I
I bet
usually-
people do the same thing
yeah.
with us.
Right. As soon as we were like, let's wrap this up, and then if we had any sponsors, we'd start saying that, and that's where I'd be like, and delete. I'm done.
Yeah. And I stopped listening. I don't need to hear about fucking stamps.com.
Yeah, or Quip. Yeah, I
Or
got my own
Quip, yeah.
toothbrush.
Fucking
know?
Zip Recruiter.
Lisa mattress. Yeah, seriously,
Yeah.
I bought a Lisa mattress. I'm tired of hearing about the ads. Okay. Jeez.
Dude, like, okay, I know we're supposed to wrap this up, but I want to talk about why the fuck do I get ads for something I already own? It's done. Like, I have Borderlands 3. Why am I getting Borderlands 3 ads? It's fucking stupid. It's dumb.
Dude, yeah. Like the Amazon algorithm is so bad. Like you'll buy something, like say you bought like a phone charger, and then like the banner ads will pop up and it'll be like more things you might want, and they're just more phone chargers.
Yeah.
It's like what? It's like why? I already got one. I don't need another one.
I seen a really good one about that. Somebody bought like a toilet seat, and it was like their whole thing was just toilet seats. It's like, yeah, I'm not starting a fucking collection. I just needed one.
Yeah, just needed one. Exactly. That's
Okay,
funny.
yeah, let's wrap this up for real because I know we're really bad about being. All right, we're done, and then we just keep talking.
Yeah. But seriously, we'll wrap this one up. Thank you everybody for listening,
Yeah.
and we will catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah, bye.